Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of JT Talks Jobs. I'm JT, the founder of Work It Daily, and today we're going to be talking about the count them, 5 reasons you might still be unemployed. So if you're somebody who's been out of work more than 3 months, more than 6 months, you may be affected by one or more of the things that I talk about today. These are hard truths, but they're the things that you need to hear, right? Career coaches tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And we're going to get down to it today, but also talk about the things that you can do to really overcome these roadblocks. So it's very important that we discuss this. Before I do, though, a couple of reminders, a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, we are broadcasting on a lot of different platforms today. And the only place that you will be able to ask questions is on the LinkedIn live stream. So if you're not following me on LinkedIn, what you want to do is run over there, hit my follow button on my profile, JT O'Donnell. Just Google search that and you'll find it. And then once you do that, you'll be able to join the live chat. Now, if you just want to watch, that's fine. We're on all those other platforms streaming. We're glad to have you here. But again, we're only taking live questions today on the LinkedIn live stream. And you can see how to do that on my screen right now. The other thing I want to tell you is that we've got our very own hashtag. So if you want to join the conversation after the fact, it's hashtag JT Talks Jobs. You also can follow that over on LinkedIn. So be sure to check that out as well. It's a great place to go and find all the past recordings of our live events. So if you missed something, you can't hang out with us on a given day, make sure to follow the hashtag JT Talks Jobs and you will be able to always be part of the conversation. All right, enough of that. Let's get down to the business of talking about the 5 things that could still make you unemployed and the reasons for those. So we are going to look at the first thing, which is you associate unemployed with unemployable. So this is a mindset thing. And, this is a great time to ask everybody that's in the chat today, how long have you been out of work? And what do you think the number one reason is that you haven't been able to get a job? So make sure that you put that in there. We're going to take a look at all those comments later for sure. But for me, in the more than 15 years that I have been working in this, and prior to that, I was in HR and recruiting and staffing. So I've seen both sides of the equation. I can tell you that when somebody ends up staying unemployed for a long period of time, it's a mentality, it's a mindset. There are some things going on in your world. There is a career story that you're playing in your head that is holding you back from getting results. So what do I mean by that? So we as human beings, we are designed literally to process every experience that we have, right? We have this incredible brain that when it experiences things, it wants to categorize it, like old-fashioned library cards where they categorize where books go. And so we store these experiences away. And then when things come up in our life, we're very easily able to recall these experiences and quickly make assumptions and determinations about what's happening to us. This is the human nature. We were designed to do this. This was our survival mechanism. And so it's like a big computer, right? The problem is that a lot of people, when they're stuck in unemployment, it has to do with sort of these stories, these experiences that are going on repeat. And they're usually negative. You've usually made some assumptions about things that have happened to you in the past. And as a result, you limit yourself. You don't even realize it because, it's on autopilot. You're just going, but you've got this negative mindset. And one of them is that I am underemployed. I am not an employable person. If I lost my job, there's something wrong with me, regardless of the fact that these days, every job is temporary, by the way. Layoffs are the new normal, even when we don't have a recession going on. I mean, people are claiming we're in the biggest booming economy ever right now, yet I have layoff alerts and I see them every single day. Major companies are laying off every single day. It's the new normal. When they see something underperforming, they lay off. This is how it goes. Industries, all sorts of industries are going through evolution. You might be an industry right now that's going through an evolution, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of layoffs. So this rate of change that we're experiencing is causing that. But I have a lot of people, when they lose their job, assume it was them. There's something wrong with them. And it just buries in the back of their brain. And every time they go out, they set themselves up for failure, because when they're taking a risk, they're taking a chance, they're networking, whatever they're doing, deep in the back of their brain is, I'm, unemployable. I'm a bad person. Something's wrong with me. I'm damaged. And that's just not true. Easy for me to say, but for you out there that's dealing with that, not so easy to remove. I wish it was just you listening to me today and going, she's right. Okay, yeah, I am totally employable. It's not that simple. It actually takes a lot of coaching and a lot of work to identify the experiences and the thought process that you've built that's holding you back from this. So it's really something that everyone here, if you are unemployed at the moment, have to be tackling. That said, I'm going to leave you with one thing that I want you to think about today. This is a technique that I've been using for years. When you come into the Work It Daily platform, if you don't currently have a job, you are between jobs. I hate that ugly U word. I can't stand it. And I don't like to use it. In fact, you made me use it a lot today because we were talking about the subject. But the truth is, you are between jobs. You are a talented professional who builds skills. You currently are between assignments, between gigs, whatever the heck you want to call it, but you will work again. That's how it is. This is a temporary thing, just like anything, right? If every job is temporary, then the time off between jobs is temporary as well. And you need to say this to yourself. I am between jobs. You need to repeat it 100 times. You need to put it someplace. You need to mentally shift so we can start to break down those big walls that have got you thinking that you are helpless and you are impossible to actually hire. That's just not true, okay? And I know a lot of you out there, especially people, seasoned workers, I've got a lot of people who are convinced that they've got age discrimination going on. If you did not see my session last week on age discrimination, go and find it, because this is not the case. You have got to shift your mindset. And once again, a lot of times age discrimination is more of a perception thing, right? You have more control than you think. So it's just one of many examples here today, but I cannot stress it enough. If you are not working right now, you're not, I'm not going to say it, you are between jobs. All right. You got it? Awesome. All right. Let's move on to the second one then. So the second reason you might be between jobs right now, we're going to get used to saying that, right, is that you have been really busy spraying and praying. So what is spraying and praying? Well, if you've listened to me before, you know that's when you just blindly send out as many applications as you can online, hoping to hear back from someone. You've heard of the numbers game, right? So people say, oh, if you apply to enough places in volume, eventually somebody's going to respond to you. That is actually not true when it comes to hiring. Not true at all. See, the ATS systems, the applicant tracking systems that the majority of companies use these days, also known as the applicant tossing systems, are designed to do just that. Because we've made it so easy for people to apply, everybody does. So in the past, if a company posted a job, say in a newspaper, you had to make the effort to write the cover letter, print up your resume, fold it up, mail it off, get it in there. If you weren't really into the job, that was probably going to deter you. Now, you can sit there on your couch in your pajamas. You can scroll through a bunch of jobs. They got an easy apply button. You click one button, it sends over your profile over, and all of a sudden somebody's looking at you for a job. Think about that. Think about how many more people now apply for jobs that they are not a fit for. But also think about how many people who are a fit apply because it got so much easier. So the reality is competition is insane when you apply online. It's next to impossible. And studies show that less than 3% of the people that apply to a job online actually ever get a phone call. That's because they have to weed everybody out. If there were 100 applicants, sometimes 1,000 applicants, you're talking about very few people getting through. So you shouldn't beat yourself up about that. What you need to understand is you really haven't been looking for work if this has been your primary method of job search. And that can be hard to hear, especially if you've been doing this and getting more and more depressed as you go along. And now you've got somebody telling you this hard truth. So you want to stop the spraying and praying as soon as possible. What do you want to replace it with? Well, let's talk about that. You've got to go around the ATS. And you've got to actually talk to people who work there. Networking is everything these days. Your network is your net worth. And people go, oh, JT, but I don't know anybody there. How am I going to connect? Well, we have this incredible thing called the internet, right? We've got all these social tools that we're able to use to find people that work at companies. We have ways to figure out that if we know people that work there, we can actually navigate an introduction. And candidly, we can reach out to total strangers in an appropriate way and ask them to connect and ask them for their insights in terms of what it takes to get hired there, what their experience has been with the company. The part about that is that people feel like it's uncomfortable. Well, JT, it just feels, I don't want to do that. Well, guess what? You're a business of one, and you have to market your services to get hired, and you want to be paid thousands of dollars. How would you feel if a business in your town went belly up and they didn't do a single bit of marketing? They didn't try to meet any new customers. Would you feel sorry for them? No, because we know that every business has to market itself in some way. Right now, if you are between gigs, you have got to increase your marketing outreach. Applying online is not marketing outreach. Connecting with people, having conversations, getting them to learn what you're about, that is marketing outreach. And you need to be very strategic about that. So if you don't know how to do that, that's something you should be dialing in on right now. And that's very different, very, very different than we've looked for work in the past. Because we have this technological component, learning how to network online is definitely a skill that you need to build. So get access to some resources on that. In fact, probably a good segue right now. You see the link below. Everything I'm talking about today, when I reference something, some kind of resource, is right over there at workitdaily.com/resources. Workitdaily.com/resources. Go over there. You can find some great information on how to build all of the skills that we're talking about today. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So you got to go around that ATS. You've got to build your network. You've especially got to get much more skilled at online networking. Is that making sense to everyone? Awesome. Okay. Let's move on to number 3. Third reason why you might still be between gigs right now is that you've been using your professional network the wrong way. So we all have a professional network. It can vary in size. Some of us, are more selective and have a smaller network. Some of us have a much more open network and have a lot of connections. It really varies. And there's no right or wrong way in terms of building out how many connections you have, right? You're never going to hear me here on this show say, you need to be an open networker and you need to have thousands of connections. I would actually never say that because that's not right for all of us. So you have to decide what's right for you. However, regardless of the size of your network, how you use the network in times when you are between jobs is pretty important. The biggest mistake that I see people make is that they send out a blanket message to everybody, letting them know that they're looking for work and that they're open to anything. So I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to cast a wide net. All right. Hey, everyone, I'm between jobs right now and I'm, really looking for something. If you hear of anything, let me know. I actually get those in my LinkedIn inbox pretty much every day. People connect with me, send me messages, not even connect with me. And I don't know them. And they just send me this. If you have anything open, JT, let me know. That it just doesn't work. And the only analogy that I can give you is, imagine you decide that you are open to dating again. Would any of us go out to all of our friends and family and say, hey, I'm looking for a date. I'm open to anyone. No, because gosh knows what would happen next. In fact, some of you right now in the comments, tell me about it. I'm sure you've done that. And I'm sure you've got some crazy stories. You don't want to do that. We know not to do that because they're going to mismatch us. And then when we go on the bad date or we say no, now this person that tried to help us is offended because we said we were open to anything. And clearly we're not open to anything. And that's a problem. So same thing when you're looking for work. With your network, you need to enable them and empower them as much as possible by giving them specifics. And that's what we're going to talk about for tip number 3. You want to individualize your requests and you want to be as tailored as you can. So for example, in Work It Daily, our members, we teach them how to create something called an interview bucket list. They then use this list to proactively reach out and look for members of their network who know people on these bucket lists. If they do, we show them how to craft a message to ask if they can be introduced. If none of the people that in their network know anyone, we then teach them how to craft a message that goes out and says, hey, I am between jobs right now. Here are 10 companies I'm really interested in and why. This is the kind of opportunity I think I excel at, the kind of skills that I want to leverage. Do you know one person who works at this company or one person who does at any one of these companies? So there's a whole framework to the message, but the real important thing was the last one. You ask people to do a single call to action. Do you know one person on this list? Do you know how much easier it is for your network to go through their network and look at it and say, oh, I do know someone? It is so much easier for them to act and help you when you give them structure as opposed to sending them an email saying, And between jobs right now, do you know anyone who's hiring? See the difference? Again, you've got to really dial in your message and make sure that you're leveraging your network in the right way. Okay. And there's many more steps to that. But again, going back to what we've talked about here, looking for work is a skill. It is not something that we were ever taught in school. It's not something we've ever thought about keeping up on to boot. So if you don't have these types of skills, now is the time to acquire them. You've got to work on them. You are a business of one. Your business needs to know how to market and network itself into the right opportunities by presenting the right message to its network, right? That's basic marketing. It's not rocket science, but it does take a little work. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about number 4. It's a little similar to number 1, but also different. You have a victim mentality, and it's making people not want to help you. Okay, I needed a sip of coffee for that one. So let's talk about this. You've been between jobs for a while. You're starting to get down in the dumps. I get it. It's affecting your mood. And you're around people, and they can feel it. You don't want to be in your mind, well, I can't be over the top. I can't be super happy because I'm not working right now. I feel less than whole. I feel like people are judging me. And so your whole demeanor, your whole attitude comes down a notch. Does that sound familiar? Also, when you talk about what's happened, you're starting to go negative. So you'd start to talk about your former employer and, the things that they did and how this isn't fair. You start to talk about, again, go back, watch the age discrimination, because that seems to be a big one. You're being discriminated against. It's society. It's where we're at right now. It's those dang millennials. I hear all sorts of things from people when they are between jobs for an extended period of time. And all you're doing is creating a victim mentality. You are making yourself more helpless by the day. You are saying that this situation is out of your control. Think about that. You are saying that you don't have control. And I get it. Because you've been trying to control the situation, because you've been trying things that haven't worked and have failed, you've come to the conclusion, okay, well, I've tried everything. Therefore, this is out of my control. I'm sorry, that's not the case. And if you believe that, you are not going to find your next role. You are creating that victim mentality. You're putting that career story on repeat, that playlist. Every time you go out, you're setting yourself up for failure. That is the truth. That is how it works. So here's the thing, and this can be hard to hear. You've got to claim ownership of the situation. That's right. You've got to claim ownership. And this one hurts. People say, GT, I didn't ask to be let go. I didn't ask for the company to tank. I wasn't involved in what happened that required them to do layoffs. I didn't mean for this to happen. It wasn't intentional. I know it wasn't intentional. I know you didn't mean to do it, but you are where you are because of a series of choices that you made. And at the time, they seem like the right choices. Staying with your employer seemed like the right choice. Keeping your head down and doing your job, not building your skills and your network, seemed like the right choice. Not learning how to do a proactive job search seemed like the right choice. Every single day we make choices. And a lot of times those choices don't work out. And when they don't work out, it hurts. I get it. So you have to claim ownership of the fact that you are where you are right now through a series of choices that you thought were the right choices at the time, but they're not. And I need you to hear that, because in HR and recruiting, we're taught there are 3 sides to every story. There's yours, theirs, and the truth. So think about that. If you're making all sorts of excuses and acting like a victim, you're not taking any ownership of your situation. That's a red flag to employers, a big red flag. On the contrary, if you sit down and can very calmly and objectively say, I don't love where I am right now. This has been a powerful experience. Being between jobs is not my favorite place to be, but I own it. I'm here through a series of choices that I thought were the good ones at the time. And now I've got to deal with it. And here's how I'm dealing with it. And here's what I'm learning from it. In fact, one of the secret weapons that we teach people at Work It Daily is the experience, learn, and grow model for answering the question, why have you been out of work so long? Right? Why have you been out of work so long? That's a scary question. And so the answer has to be, well, here's the set of experiences that I had, the choices that I made. I own that. Here's what I've learned through this process. And here's how I've grown and how I'm going to use this going forward with my next employer. When you can show people that you can do that, take ownership, you're the superhero of your own story. You have confidence, you have power. There's belief that you will be able to get things done. There's belief in you because you have the right mindset. But everyone out there right now, if you're still thinking like a victim and not taking ownership for what's happening and focusing more on the things that have hurt you and held you back and have been out of your control, this is working against you. Employers don't want to hire that, and they can feel it. They can sense it when you come into the interview. And that's why I need to set you free by having you own it, saying, okay, I own it. I'm here because of me, which also means the future, I will be there because of me. I will find a way. I will find the solution. As long as I keep trying, I will get there. But if you give up trying and you've stopped and your victim mentality is in full force, they're not going to want to hire you, because who wants to hire that? Who wants to hire a victim? We all want to hire superheroes. We want to hire people who have can-do attitudes and know they can do it, who own their actions and move forward. Even superheroes in every movie make mistakes, but they own them. They rise up from them. They move forward. Lesson learned. We've got to adopt that same mentality and talk that way in order to overcome our situation. All right. Okay, we're down to the fifth one. Here we go. Reason number 5, you might still be between jobs. I think I've been hinting at this all along, but if it hasn't become obvious to you by now, I think it will, which is you don't have a strategic process. Once again, school did not teach us how to look for work. On top of that, thanks to technology, things have dramatically changed in the last 10 years, 5 years, even 2 years. How is that possible? Well, first of all, over 10 years ago, LinkedIn didn't exist. And the evolution of LinkedIn, when it went from, a couple of thousand members to close to 700 million, if they're not over that now, every year, how people use the platform changes, which means you need to know how to use the platform differently. So it's very possible that you just don't have the skills right now. You need to get out there and connect and find that next opportunity. But guess what? It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. Doesn't require a 4-year degree. Doesn't even require a certification. It just needs some time and energy and strategy and the right teachers. So please make sure whatever resources you've been using to date, maybe you haven't at all, that means get some, but please go back. If those aren't working for you, then you have the wrong resources. And it's time for you to get the right one, right? So what do you want to do there? The first step, I'll tell you, is to create the interview bucket list, right? And network accordingly. That's the one thing I can say to people that starts to give them a sense of understanding of what I mean when I say you need to build a marketing process for your business of one. When you start to look at companies that you admire and you'd want to work for, and you take a step back and say, wait a minute, why am I even interested in that company? Why would my friend not be interested in that company, but I am? When you think about that, you start to make the marketing connection to that business. You start to figure out the reasons you would want to network with people there, the reasons you would want to write up a cover letter and share it with them. When you have that connection mapped out, you get your messaging much tighter. And all good salespeople know this. In fact, if I've got any salespeople on the line today, you know what I'm talking about. They teach us a lot about messaging because one message doesn't serve all. We have to do our homework and really target who we're talking to and give them interesting things to discuss. So if I'm in love with a company like, I don't know, a lot of people say Apple, right? A lot of people love Apple. So I always ask them, well, why do you love Apple? What is it about their products? And do you remember the first time you ever used an Apple product? And why is this so important to you? Why is it so much better? I have them really dig in and figure out what's their emotional connection to Apple. Well, now when you meet somebody at Apple, first of all, now you want to meet somebody at Apple because you know what to talk to them about. Not, I think you're a great employer and you're so awesome, but you know what? I want to tell you about the time when I first fell in love with Apple. Because what Apple employee doesn't want to hear that? Of course they do. It's so fun. They have the same story. They wouldn't be working there if they didn't feel the same way. So now you're bonding and you're making it easier to connect. It's making the networking process for you a lot simpler. So this is just one technique, but it's very, very powerful. This is one technique that I mean about having a more strategic job search that most people don't have and they don't know how to do. And so you've got to get the answers to that. And this is just one step in the right direction. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, I've gone through the 5, but I got 2 bonus tips today. All right. 2 bonus tips. So take a look here. When you are talking about yourself, the business of one, we're between assignments, between gigs right now, but you have not lost your value. You have skills, you have abilities. You save or make companies money. You have to step back and ask yourself, what skills do I leverage and how do they save or make a company enough money to justify the cost of hiring me? When you can talk in those terms, now you're talking like a business. Right? We would never buy something if we didn't see value in it. Everything we buy provides some kind of value. Saves us money, it makes us money, it brings us joy to the point that we're willing to pay for joy. Think about it. There's always a reason that we pay for something. And so you have to ask yourself, why would somebody pay good money for me? What am I doing that justifies the cost? Because that's what they need to talk about with you. And you need to be clear on that message. So if you're not clear, a lot of times I see people between jobs do not have this nailed down. All right. Second bonus tip, and then we're going to get to some good questions, and I'm sure I've got some good ones. Make sure everything about your job search is current. So what do I mean by that? Well, resume styles have changed in the last 2 years. LinkedIn profile styles have changed in the last 2 years. Cover letters, yes, you still need one, but it's totally different than the cover letters that you're seeing free out on the internet. You need a disruptive cover letter. If you don't know what that is, again, check out the resources, workitdaily.com/resources. Your networking approach, obviously, your interview prep, knowing how to answer interview questions. That's a big, big deal these days. Companies have really upped their game. They dig in deep. They ask you tough questions. They're called behavioral questions. You need to know how to answer these. The whole protocol, the whole job search protocol, follow-up, thank you notes, all of it has to be current. And again, this isn't going to take you a year to learn, but if you don't have the current information on all of this, you are not making the most of the entire process. Remember, it's very easy for them to screen you out. There's a lot of competition right now. So please make sure that all of your tools are current and that you know that they're working. All right. Awesome. Okay. Wow. So I'm going to stop here for a second. I definitely need a sip of coffee. That was a lot of talking. I'm going to come up on the screen. So let me do that. By the way, when I'm not looking at you, someone was telling me I don't look at the camera. I'm self-producing here. So over here is where my slides are. There's where you are. Down here is where I make the adjustments. Love to share that all with you. But what I'm going to do now is bring myself up on the screen and we're going to take some questions. I need to pull up the deck that my awesome teammates have got going here. And we're going to talk a little bit about your between job questions. Sound good? All right. So let's see. Question from Andrew. Shout out to Andrew. How long does one wait for a company that says they like you and are looking at restructuring departments and it would be a new role? Well, I mean, you wait until they give you an answer, Andrew. I think my question is, you don't wait around. You look for other things. So all my good salespeople here know you never just sit there. Don't get a job crush. We talk about job crush a lot at Market Daily. That's where you fall in love with a company, but they're not ready to make a move just yet. So you think you should wait around, right? I could use lots of dating analogies here right now. You know what I'm talking about. Waiting around for that fateful day when the person finally falls in love with you. Not a good job search strategy. Not a good one. My advice to you, Andrew, is double down, triple down, look for other opportunities, get more stuff in your pipeline so that you're not job crushing on this employer. It'll make time go by faster. And should you start to get something in the pipeline, should you get offers from other places, now you've got a hand that you can play. Now you can go back to them and say, I've been given an offer at this company, but you're my first choice. I know you were talking about this restructuring. Is there any chance that's going to happen in the near future? And then you'd be able to get an answer. The reason I say that is that restructurings can take a long time. Sometimes companies don't do it. If they really wanted you in the moment, they'd be pursuing you, Andrew. So stay in touch with them. Check in every 3 weeks to a month. Send them an article of interest here or there. Keep networking with them. But my advice is to stop job crushing and move on, okay? Awesome. All right. Kimberly says, would it be different if looking for a job in a different geographical location? Yes. So if you're between jobs right now, so you haven't worked in a while, and you're trying to find jobs someplace else, you've just made it doubly harder. Because first of all, employers really aren't paying for relocation anymore. So you're getting screened out because you're not in their backyard. That's a problem right there. If you do get your resume in their hands and you do get somebody to look at you and they can look past the fact that you are someplace else, now you've got the gap in employment too. So my advice is if you know you're relocating someplace right now, the focus should be on getting there. In fact, we have an awesome YouTube video, folks, on long distance job search. If you go over to YouTube and just search long distance job search, Work It Daily, I walk you through the 6 steps that you should take when you are looking for work remotely. So if that's you, you definitely want to do that. But my advice is that you want to find some kind of job to fill the gap right now and then focus on the relocation. It's very difficult to do both. All right, great question. Thank you, Kimberly. Let's see, we're going to take one from Michael. Michael says, if companies repost the same job over and over and you've had previously applied a month ago, do you reapply? And if so, do you reapply once? You do not reapply online without talking to somebody first, Michael. So this is something that we hear a lot. It's more likely the ATS system tossed you, but a lot of ATS systems, once you've been tagged as not a fit, then you're not a fit. So applying again is going to be extremely annoying to the employer, especially if it was unsolicited. What you need to do is network with people there and get yourself to the recruiter or the hiring manager who reposted the job. And you want to be able to message them in a platform like LinkedIn and say, I see that this job got posted again. Very excited about that. You know, I did apply previously. I was wondering if it's okay to apply again. I'd love to get your feedback on that. I don't want to stuff your ATS if I'm not eligible to apply again. So now you're asking a question, but here's the beautiful part about this, a little sneaky, which I love, is they're getting your name, and you could even attach your LinkedIn profile, for example. You could even go so far as if you've written an amazing disruptive cover letter. Again, if you don't know what that is, go look it up. We teach it. And say, here's the story of why I'm so connected to your company, why I feel so passionate, why it's on my bucket list. I applied a month ago, but I didn't want to stuff your ATS if it's not okay for me to apply again. Could you let me know if that's okay to do? So now they're going to what? Look at the cover letter, look at your LinkedIn profile. And it probably never got looked at the first time, as I talked about earlier. It probably got just tossed and maybe even flagged you if you skipped a couple fields or if you didn't have one particular skill set. It just flagged you as not a fit and marked you as not a fit, and a human eye never even saw it. Now what you're doing is getting some human eyes to look at your situation and maybe pull you from the no pile and put you in the yes pile. Happens all the time, all the time. People in Work Daily will say, oh, I got the automatic rejection. I literally filled out the application online, got the automatic rejection. Then I went around the system, got to the recruiter, and they were like, oh, I don't know why you got tossed. You look like you're a fit. Let's have a conversation. Don't give up so easily. ATS isn't a human being, and it's not no, not ever. It's no, not today. And so you got to go find someone else to talk to. Okay. Awesome. Great question. Thanks, Michael. How about Martha? Hey, Martha. How do you beat the bots when creating a cover letter or a resume? You don't beat the bots. You don't beat the bots, Martha. And everyone else out there, you don't. And I get so upset. Can you tell in my voice? I get really upset when I see all these people out there, they're resume coaches, whatever, gurus. There's even technologies that claim they can keyword optimize your resume and help you beat the bots. They can't. Maybe they can get lucky for one bot, but even then, folks, if you're not a fit, you're still going to get screened out. Why are we trying so hard to beat a bot when you still could get screened out when they talk to you? You have got to build your brand. You have got to build your network. You have got to get yourself screened in. When you go through the ATS system, that's all they're doing is screening you out. You're not building any sort of relationship there. You're a commodity. Does everybody know what that means? You are a commodity until proven otherwise. What that means is you are fungible. Do you know what that means? It means you can be replaced. It means there are a million of you. So when you're going through the ATS, that's it. You're an apple. And 100, sometimes thousands of apples are applying. And it's so easy to toss you because you're too green or you're too big or your stem's too long, right? It's just that easy. You do not want to go through ATS. Now, a lot of companies will force you to apply an ATS, and you can do that as part of the process, but that is not job searching. You've got to go beyond that. You've got to do your homework on that company. You've got to find people to connect with. You've got to get you pulled from the pile and looked at by a human being. And no gaming of this is going to do that with the bots. So this is what I mean about everything I talked about today. If you are between jobs right now and all you've been doing is trying to figure out how to beat bots, you have not been looking for work. And that hurts to hear. And that's a choice that I need you to own. Because at this point, trying to hold on to that and make it work, it's not working. What I need you all to do today is say, okay, I own it. I get it now. The ATS is screening me out. I can't game the bots. I've been not really looking for work by just applying online. I need to do something different. I own that. I tried something. I thought it was the right thing, but now I'm hearing today from JT and I've got to do something different. Folks, I would not be saying this stuff if I didn't know it were true. I promise you. So you have to do yourself a favor today, own it, and start doing something different. Gaming the bots, not a job search strategy. You will never, ever, ever hear me or anyone that works at Work It Daily say that, because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You still got to deal with a human when you get there. Still got to make networking, still got to impress them, still got to answer those interview prep questions, still got to get hired. The bot is just a technical tool to screen you out. It's just this minor part of the very, very beginning of the process. And essentially, if that's what you're focused on, you're never going to get through to the finish line. Hard words to hear, but you need to hear them in order to move forward. Awesome. Thank you for asking that, Martha. Tomas says, I want to work in the US or Australia. Can you help me? Well, I personally can't help you. You can help yourself. Check out the long distance job search video that I mentioned earlier and understand that if you really want it, you're going to have to work harder than you ever have in your life. But you can make it happen. People do it every day. Just most people don't want to put in the time. They don't want to put in the effort. They don't want to put in the hustle. So this will be a real test in how badly you want to work in Australia or the US. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. Do you need to discuss your salary package in the interview? Well, when you're between gigs, no, we're not ever talking about salary until they bring it up. Now, you need to be prepared to talk about salary when they bring it up, but you don't want to be the one to lead that discussion because right now you're not working. So for you to be making salary demands, not a good idea at this time. You have to wait for the buy signals. When a company starts asking you about your salary requirements, that's a buy signal, meaning they're interested in you because they're trying to find out how much you cost, right? When we're interested in something, buying something, we ask, how much is it? So same thing. So if employers aren't asking you about your salary requirements, they're not at the phase yet where they believe that you are worth it. So you've got to go back to that tip that I mentioned earlier, which is really show them how you save or make enough money to justify the cost of hiring you. That's the key. You got to do it. All right. Susan says, what are some ways to overcome being well qualified, but having an oral speech impairment and they almost instantaneously disconnect? You can tell by the way they talk in their questions. So Susan, I've seen this in the past. Anytime we have some kind of disability, we have to make up for it in personality. So what we want to see, going back to my earlier comment about owning our situation. Now, some people say, JT, how can you honestly say that Susan here chose to have this oral impairment? Now, I'm not saying she did. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that Susan can choose how she interprets it and leverages it. She can choose to use her disability as a point to have people feel sorry for her, which I don't think Susan's that person. I can tell already. She wouldn't be asking this question. Or she can choose to recognize she has an opportunity here to get creative in her communication style and show people that this does not limit her. So essentially, Susan, you've got to go on the offensive, not the defensive. You've got to be proactive, not reactive. You've got to be the first one to call out, hey, by the way, probably noticed there's something a little different about my speech. Maybe have a quick joke or two about it to lighten the mood. You have to be the one that leads the discussion about it and be comfortable with it and say, hey, I'm sure it can sound a little weird, but here are the 3 upsides or whatever the case may be. And this is branding. You have got to brand yourself. You've got strengths and you've got weaknesses. We all do. This happens to be one of your perceived weaknesses. So flip that conversation. Flip it on its ear. Show me what you've done with it. Find an upside to it. Yes, find an upside to it. Call that out. Talk about it. Change the script. Change the conversation. Show them the power that you have. That's what has to happen in that conversation, because my guess is that You start the conversation. You see them change. You then change. It's a big elephant in the room. Nobody's talking about it. The mood isn't lightened, and everyone just wants it to end, right? Got to change that whole dynamic. And you say, but JT, why me? I'm the one with the impairment. Because you want the job. You want to be paid thousands of dollars. You want something from them. Therefore, it's on you to build that out. And I know a lot of people right now are going, oh my gosh, JT's being so harsh. But Susan, I know that you understand what I'm saying right now. You got this. You can do this. Get creative. Have fun with it. You've got nothing to lose. The way this has been working so far hasn't been working, right? Own the choice and try to do it differently. Absolutely. Worst case, you'll leave laughing because you tried something new. You can pat yourself on the back and celebrate. But I promise you, when you change how it feels for them, when you change what happens and how you speak about it, they will change their reaction to you. That is the truth. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. Deborah says, my friend referred me and sent a resume to a recruiter. I have over 20 years of experience in my field. Without having a conversation with me, she said I didn't have the right experience. She would not email me further when I asked why. What could have happened? I don't know. I mean, here's the deal. Recruiters are technical buyers. They can't get you the job, but they certainly can get you eliminated from the job. So obviously there's something in there that is telling them that you don't have the right experience. Now, here's the thing a lot of people don't want to hear. You assume if you have 20 years of experience, that if they ask you for 10, then you have the experience, right? Everyone hear me there? So, okay, company wants 5 to 10 years of experience. I have 20 years of experience. Therefore, I have the experience. No, you have too much experience. They asked for a certain level of experience. You have too much. Therefore, you are beyond that. And that historically, like it or not, can be a problem in a job. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're overqualified for a job that doesn't require the knowledge that you have and the skills that you have, there is an assumption that you will be bored. There is an assumption that you will want to tell everybody how to get to the next level so that you can use the skills that you do have. If a company isn't there yet and they're not ready for that, then they don't need you. It would be like saying, so you just got your driver's license. We're going to get you a Ferrari, right? And you're going to drive around the racetrack and you're going to be a pro racer, right? A person who just got their license, pretty much the last thing they need is a Ferrari and going around a racetrack at 100 miles an hour. Not really ready for that. Not ready. Someday they might be ready for the racetrack, but right now they just got their license. What they need is a safe car and some time to get their skills up so that they can go to the next level. Supply and demand. If that's what a company needs, if that's what they've identified, then that's what they need. And that is so hard for people to hear. Because you know why? You know what's really bothering you when you have 20 years of experience? Is because we were told that the more experience we have, the more marketable we'd be. That as we climb the ladder, it would get easier. You know what? That might have been true 50, 60 years ago. It's not how it works now. Nowadays, it's all about your current experience. What have you done lately? Are you cutting edge? Are you relevant? So that 20 years of experience, while you're looking at it and saying, I've amassed 20 years of experience, most employers are saying, what I really need is 3 to 5 years of experience in this particular area, really, really current. So if you don't have that, then you're not qualified for the job. And that blows people's mind because they say, but JT, I have all this experience. I'm adaptable. I can go in. I can get up to speed. I get it, but that's not what they're looking for. They're the consumer. They're the buyer. They've made decisions, criteria, and they don't want to shift off that. Think about it. Have you ever gone into a store and you knew exactly what you wanted to buy? Maybe it was an appliance or something, and you had a budget, and you get in there and you get the pushy salesman who's telling you, you don't know what you're talking about. What you really need is this. Well, that's what a lot of older workers come across like. A lot of workers that have 20 years experience are like, don't you get it? I have 20 years of experience. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. They're a jack or Jill of all trades. But in reality, the employer just wants this. This is all they need. This is all they want to pay for. That's what's happening here. And we get really upset about it because when I say, hey, supply and demand, people get furious. And I understand it's emotional and it's scary because all this time you've been doing what you were told to do, what society told you to do. And what they never told you was there was going to be a wisdom tax. And that's because society didn't know there'd be one. But there is. There's a wisdom tax. So the solution here, going back to this problem, is to not try to convince this person to talk to you. They're done. Not going to happen. What you do need to do is find 5 people in that company. Ask your friend, hey, can you introduce me to 5 people that work in that department? Not even 5. Let's start with 2. 2 people that work in that department and say, I'm not going to ask them for a job. I just want to do an informational interview. I want to learn more about how they got their job. I want to learn more about their skills at the company, why they love working there, how they're growing their career. I just want to learn more about them, right? If you can meet with 2 people at that company besides your friend and make a friend and talk to them who doesn't want to talk about their own career, right? Ask them questions about how they got there, all of that, right? Informational interviews are huge. Now, 2 people in the organization beyond your friend have met you, know your personality, so that when you see another opportunity, you can not just go to your friend, you can go to those other folks and say, okay, what do you advise me to do? I see they've got this job. I think I've got the experience. I'm probably a little overqualified. How do I navigate this process to get them to consider me? See what I mean? You need allies. You need coaches, internal coaches in the company to make that happen. And this is the point where a lot of people will say to me, oh, JT, I don't want to take the time to do that. I'm in a hurry. I just need a job. This is what it takes. This is how you get the good job. This is how you get to negotiate a better pay. When you network your way through the company, you have more clout. It is a far better process to do, far better. So you just got to do it. Absolutely. Because this person has decided already, and you keep going back and saying, why won't you talk to me? That's how you get blacklisted. They're a technical buyer. Recruiter's been told, hey, I've got a checklist. If the person meets the checklist, I'll consider them. If they don't, I can't. So when you sit there and tell them that they don't know how to do their job and that they need to look at you, you're getting blacklisted. You need to go make friends within the organization so that those friends can refer you when the time comes. So then they can look beyond your qualifications and consider you for the role. Okay. That's really, again, lots of hard advice coming at everybody today, but I need you to hear this. This is what it takes to get hired. All right. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Okay. How are we doing on time here, folks? Let me take a look. All right. So I've got a few more minutes left, which is great. We'll take a few more questions. Let's see. So Doug says, recruiter submits you for a position and then goes silent. Should you work with them again if they contact you later? Sure. So, folks, people get so upset when they get ghosted by recruiters. They are dealing with hundreds of people and they get paid to do a job, which is to fill a spot. If you're not the spot, they don't have lots of free time to chat with you and circle back with you. They just don't. That's how it is. And remember, you're the person that wants to get a job worth thousands of dollars. They're paying, you're receiving. So I think we all have to do a little bit better job of understanding that if a recruiter blows us off, it is not the end of the world. And if they circle back and contact us again, well, we must have done something right for them to think about us and want to potentially redeploy us on something else. That's just how it is. We got to get thicker skin and we've got to understand what's happening. Really, people are way too sensitive in job search. And I get it. This is, you're fragile in the sense that, oh my gosh, the rejection, there's something wrong with me. You got to get better at this. There's nothing wrong with you. Just wasn't a fit. It was a no, not today. Okay, moving on. We've got to get much, much better at that. I realize everybody says to me, well, that's why I'm not in sales, JT. I hate the rejection. I'm not in sales. Okay. But I can't change the fact that every job is temporary and you are a business of one, and gone are the days where you work for a company for 20 years. It's gone. So if you want to stay employable for a lifetime, you need new tactics. And the sooner you learn them and get comfortable with them and get comfortable with the rejection, the better. And you can do it. Honestly, the solution is to hang out with other people who are in the same situation you are. When you're surrounded by other people who are hustling and working hard to try to figure it out, you can, share in the rejection together and move on a lot faster. Job search can be very lonely and very isolating. And a huge mistake a lot of people make, especially when they're between jobs, is to go it alone. You absolutely need to be part of a community. And more importantly, you need a coach. Coaches get you out of your funk. Coaches help you work through. If you're venting, they let you vent and then they reprogram your brain to go in the right direction. So if you don't have a coach, get one. If you don't have a mentor, get one, because you should not be job searching alone. Never, ever, ever in your career. Awesome. Let's see. So Jason says, for the past 2 years, I've been the primary caretaker for a sick family member who has recently passed. At that time, I worked only freelance opportunities, and now that I'm fully ready to engage, it seems I have a black cloud hanging over me based on contract freelance work. It's all been beneficial, but apparently might need to adjust my strategy. Yes. I love the disruptive cover letter, but sometimes they don't ask for it. Okay, so Jason, first of all, I think it is awesome that you cared for a sick family member. I know a lot of you that have been following me for a while know that I've been through it 3 times myself, my father, and then both of my in-laws. It is just never easy, but you never regret that decision. So good for you, Jason. I know that person's smiling down on you, okay? Now, getting back to full-time work. First of all, if you were working with us, we would definitely add to your resume. In this case, you would say full-time caregiver, and you would explain in a bullet point that you were caring for a sick family member who has since passed, and now you're ready for full-time work. Okay, so that would, and this is one of those exceptions to the rule where I would put that in a resume. As far as the cover letter goes, if a company does not ask you for one in the online application, what have we learned here today, Jason? You go around the ATS and you find somebody and you get it in their hands. You go on a mission, my friend. You get on a mission to find somebody who works there, connect with them and say, I have a really powerful story about why this company is at the top of my bucket list. It's one of my dream companies. And I think the story is pretty powerful and I just want to be able to share it. And there's not a space for a cover letter in the application. Do you think there's a way that I could get this to somebody? Yeah, that's what you do. Get the cover letter in somebody's hands and don't stop till you do, Jason. Because if that cover letter is compelling, it is going to get you the interview. And you all know what I'm talking about. For those of you that are Work It Daily members that are here today, shout out to you all. So good to have you here. You know that the disruptive cover letter is so powerful because they call you up and go, oh my gosh, this was the best story I ever read. That's right, story. Listen to me. Cover letters are not, hey, I'm this and I have that and I'm this and I'm great and I'm this or that. That's old school, narcissistic, bad cover letter. Disruptive cover letters tell a story that connect you to the employer. It's a way for the employer to feel like they know you and to get excited about wanting to look at your application. So if they're not letting you put one in an online system, that is even more reason to go around the ATS and find somebody who can get it in somebody's hands, because you got absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain by getting that story to them. Okay? So go for it, Jason. You got this. You already did one of the hardest jobs ever, right? You can do this. All right. Christine says, I've been on 5 interviews for some reason and I did not receive a job offer. What am I doing wrong? I'm a seasoned medical practice manager still looking. So Christine, sorry, I don't know a lot about your sitch, but I'm going to make some assumptions here. So you've got experience, which means you're a seasoned worker, which means you're an older worker, and you're probably somewhere up here at the top of the bell curve. So last week I did this piece on the bell curve. So the bottom of the bell curve, when we start out, we have 0 experience. We've got a lot of enthusiasm and we're cheap. And then as we start to gain experience and we start to know what we do and don't want in a job, and we start to get better and better, so does the pay rate, right? We become more in demand because we're more relevant, and then we peak. At the peak, what we don't realize is we think we're so special and so spectacular because we've climbed this hill, right? And here we are, but we don't understand there's a whole bunch of other people up there with us, and there's a whole bunch of other people pushing up the hill and eventually knocking us over the other side. So in this case, for example, in our society, it would be millennials. So they are the largest in the workforce right now. They're gaining more experience, gaining. They're pushing up and over. So when you go on these job interviews, I'm guessing, Christine, but like a lot of people, you're going in and saying, look at me. I have all this experience. I've done this a million times. I know it like the back of my hand. I can do this. I can do that. And you think you're crushing it. But what you don't understand is the way you're doing that is coming across as intellectually superior and lacking emotional intelligence. You are trying too hard. And so it's coming across as narcissistic or even worse, desperate. Neither of which you are. You're literally going in all excited because you know you can help them. And you're thinking, wow, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, I didn't know anything. I had no experience. And now I'm so excited because I used to hate those job interviews because I didn't know what to say. Now I'm here and I know what to say. But you actually don't, because that's not what they're looking for. What they're looking for is somebody who has a lot of emotional intelligence, who's very self-aware, and who has intellectual humility. The more experience we gain, the more humble you need to get. Let me say that again. The more experience you gain, the more humble you need to get. The more aware you need to be of everyone around you who is not at the same level as you. And that, my friend, is likely what's going on, right? Because you go on these interviews and you think you're crushing it, but you're using old school, outdated sales techniques that don't work. Instead, you've got to get a lot more aware of the people you're meeting with. And here's the thing I want to mention, because I talked about it last week and I'll talk about it again this week. I have people say to me all the time, oh, and I got in there and clearly I knew more than the person, so they were threatened by me. That's what happened there. Okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about today, with not taking ownership for your situation and being a victim and blaming someone else. Okay, they have the job. They're there. They're working. Give that some respect, some big respect. You want a job from this particular employer. You have got to show your intellectual humility. I am not saying be shy. I am not saying being insecure. I am saying recognize that you have some skills, but so does everybody else there. And that you are not intellectually superior. And by the way, Christine, I don't think you are any of that, but you've given me an opportunity to share that here. So much of the time, I'm working with people over the age of 40 who are sending the complete wrong message in interviews, and they have no idea. No idea. And it has all to do with what I just explained with that bell curve. So you've got to completely shift how you talk about yourself, the questions that you ask, right? How you approach the entire situation. You need to make friends in these interviews. You need to listen more than you talk, if that's possible, because they're there interviewing you, asking you questions, but you need to ask questions back. You need to listen. You need to nod. You need to show that you're open-minded, that you're humble, right? And that you're current. It's a game. Interviewing is a really big skill that people need to have these days. So my guess is that it would be good for you to get some interview prep. Really go back to the drawing board and work on your whole branding strategy and how you're introducing yourself, because the whole enthusiasm thing is great when you have no experience, but when you get to the top of the bell curve there and you don't want to get pushed off the other side, you have to go back to that curious, humble mindset. That's the key. All right. And we actually teach on all that. In fact, again, resources, just going to say it one more time. We've got common interview questions and approaches for answering them that could be a great first step for you. Okay. Awesome. All right, team, listen, I want to stop here really quick and say, what was the most helpful, hopefully, thing that you heard today? We love getting that feedback. So you've got 2 seconds to put in the comments right now. What was the aha moment for you? Did you take something away today? I hope so. I really hope you heard me when I talked about the reasons people are between jobs. We're not going to use that U word anymore. And I hope that you'll own it and do something today to start to make a change. That is the key. If you keep doing what you've done, then you're going to keep getting what you've gotten. You have got to make those changes. And you came here, so pat yourself on the back. First of all, you were brave enough to listen to this, which is enormous. That is a big step in the right direction. But please don't give up, right? Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Own it. You are where you are today through choices that were good at the time. You're just not loving the outcome right now. Own it. Set yourself free from that stress. Stop being a victim. And let's get in the game, shall we? Let's get in the game together. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by. I can't wait to talk to you next time. Next episode will be Thursday morning, also 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to be talking about group interviews. This is a new hot trend companies are using to be more efficient in their hiring process. I'm sure many of you have experienced it. If not, you probably will in your lifetime if you've got to look for work, and every job's temporary, so you will. So come back. We're going to talk about that, and then I'm going to take more questions, more general Q&A, all right? Awesome. And hey, my final word to you is, if you're looking for help, if you need a career coach, if you need that support, please come visit us at Work It Daily. At least check us out. Maybe we're not right for you. We're the #1 online career growth club. For less than a few cups of coffee, cheaper than your gym membership. I am not joking. Go check it out. Cheaper than your gym membership. You could have us in your back pocket. We are an online career coaching platform. You can direct message coaches instantly today when you sign up and start working. We are disrupting the career coaching industry. Our goal is to help 1 million people. And honestly, career coaching used to only be for the rich and for pro athletes. And now it's for everyone. Work It Daily is for everyone. So if you like today, I would love it if you would go over and check us out and consider joining us. The whole reason we made it affordable and online is so that everyone could do it no matter where they are. And we would love to work with you. We're helping people every single day. But if not, totally okay. I get it. If it's not right for you today, go to the free resources and come back and see me again. All right. All right, team. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Okay. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.